we're talking about off the chart efficiencies where when your advantage is your marginal speed, this is the advantage. This gives you that decision advantage.
As we think about increasing sort of the productivity or the efficiency, and I'm probably not as precise on the right metric, but we're allowing sort of that analyst to do more thought work and more establishing sort of connectivity. I think there's the immediate sort of value is probably one that's a little bit vertically integrated into whatever directorate or mission center or functional area they're focused on. How do we start to set conditions horizontally so that cross-organization, sort of cross-department, and then internationally, right? So cross-allies and partners, we're able to sort of build in some of that collaborative lattice. Where are you seeing progress? Where are you seeing opportunity that's more than just words, maybe?
You're quite right to start with productivity. At its absolute root, what AI affords is really a massive efficiency gain. It can clean up some of those tasks that just take a long time to complete. And so there's deep inefficiencies in all organizations. And of course, we know, in particular within defense organizations, there's too many people in that back office processing too much stuff. So AI can really help there. But I just want to make the point here that this is off the charts productivity increase. Usually when we talk to economists, we talk about 2 to 3, 4% gains of productivity, technology. And of course, technology over the last century has offered this, promise of productivity gain, and we haven't ever kind of banked that. This is what we should be so excited about artificial intelligence, and certainly at this sort of, this era change point that we're at, is that this is kind of 20 times, 30 times increase in productivity. And if we take examples within just the software development industry, kind of prompt engineering with some of these tools is speeding up the engineer's job by, they're doubling their productivity in a day. You take that and extrapolate that to all industries or sectors or businesses. Imagine just doing double what you can achieve in your day tomorrow. This is possible now in a way that it never was. So, talking about efficiencies is boring, right? You want to talk about mission outcomes, effects, of course. But we're talking about off the chart efficiencies where when your advantage is your marginal speed, this is the advantage. This gives you that decision advantage, that information advantage. So yeah, at the moment, we tend to be in the industry vertically focused because we have to fine tune these things to really work on the mission sets. We're working quite rightly for very demanding customers who have very exacting needs. This is not recognizing a cat or helping me buy cinema tickets. This has got to work every time. And we've got to build that confidence from the model upwards with the users that they can trust this, and it's responsibly built from everyone and zero upwards. So we do have to vertically focus some of the use cases, but software doesn't recognize boundaries. So we see this in the commercial sector. I can turn up to an international organization and I can have my software deployed across their infrastructure within hours. Defense forces its own stovepipe sometimes. So actually there are no boundaries to the use of this software. And if you build this in the right way, your software should be able to expand, scale by its very design without any additional marginal effort across an entire organization. Now that's where you get into the deep procurement issues that still kind of exist within defense, is that you tend to have these little penny packet organizations, each doing their own thing, buying singular capabilities, when actually there needs to be someone in that organization going, hang on a sec, this could be applied across a whole range of tasks across my entire enterprise, and really taking that enterprise-wide view that maybe a commercial organization might take, like a large investment bank or a law firm, where the CIO can actually see across all the stovepipes in a way that defense maybe hasn't quite resolved yet.
Yeah, I think it's a great sort of segue too into the sort of customer profile. You use U.S. Department of Defense as the exemplar. I think a lot of folks say, "Hey, I sell to defense," like it is a singular customer, when in reality there are hundreds of buying centers, millions of end users, and thousands of sort of entities and organizations who all behave different, buy different, sort of have different sort of priorities. When you talk about sort of that outsized gain in productivity and sort of the power that, machine learning or LLM or whatever it may be can offer, where are you seeing one resistance from either, hey, maybe I don't understand it, or it seems too good to be true, or the security side of it? Because as we think about sort of that enterprise approach, I think you're right. How do we kind of lift all tasks and make the entity or the enterprise more efficient? how do we start to build trust in, especially across sort of a customer segment that is relatively no fail in their mission set and their need for technology?
I mean, I think at the heart of this is never a technology problem. A lot of what we talk about from certainly the sort of up and coming emerging tech industry, the problems we're encountering in defense and national security are what we would call solved problems. We recognize them as challenges that exist elsewhere. Maybe the outcomes aren't as poignant as defense mission sets, but they resemble solved problems. And so, this to me, therefore, ends up being an understanding, education, and cultural challenge. It's the demand signal from my perspective, both in the UK and the US, is clear from our senior commanders, from the political top all the way through to those very senior stars. The adoption demand signal is absolutely there. What you're then getting into is the kind of bureaucracy of the system that then sort of fights itself. It's not that anyone in the system wants to see the downfall of the system. They all want to see success, but they're just handcuffed with lack of understanding, perhaps a bit of a fear that they don't understand it, but then the processes don't help them to adopt. And certainly, I think how we build that trust and start to break down some of those barriers, and kind of this is going to be counterintuitive for a former soldier who understands the importance of the operator, the warfighter. But actually, I'd like to see defense organizations start with some of the more boring tasks. The AI works in some of these boring tasks, and these tend to be back office tasks that can automate efficiencies. If you're doing that in a headquarters, say a divisional or core headquarters, where actually the outcome is not particularly tactically timely or critical, actually what you do with a whole generation of staff officers and commanders is begin to educate them on how these things are developed, how they deploy, and how they work, and what the outcomes mean. So actually, and this is something that we're gaining a lot of traction in, certainly the British military, is that actually sometimes leave the poor soldier, pilot, sailor alone. They're actually fantastic at their jobs. They're the best in the world. Actually, let's not overload them with this absolutely amazing new tech. It will get there. Let's actually reform the headquarters and then actually get the commanders understanding how this thing deploys. And then they self-generate the ideas, right? If you can see this in a back office function, and then you sort of self-extrapolate to say, hey, wouldn't this be great for a J2 mission? Wouldn't this be great to do it? Yes, it would. And then actually they're leading themselves.
Well, I think it's the thinking of, hey, if I'm pushing technology forward, if I push it as forward as like the tactical operations center, instead of always this fascination with, I can put, tech X or tech Y on an operator in an operator's hand. There's an information overload. There's a tech overload. There's weight issues. There's all sorts of issues there. But if you're enabling sort of decision making, to your point, starting in the back office and then incrementally sort of moving closer, right? Pushing out to the edge could be, a forward operating base, an operations center. It doesn't have to always be sort of miniaturized down to, some bionic monocle sitting on a future soldier somewhere. And I think we've programmatically in like defense and national security become really fascinated with like this super soldier concept.
But also this is a journey, right? The way we develop software. We're not trying to jump straight to end capability, but that's how defense, that's exactly how you buy a tank. You don't buy a tank and expect on the first day to say, well, it's not really going to work. Don't worry, this is a bit of a beta.
Yeah, here's a turret. I'll get you the rest tomorrow.
That's not going to cut it. And so defense has procured capabilities for decades on completed high standard requirements. And that thing needs to work day one. Software doesn't get developed like that. It's iterative. I want to be working with the customer on a continually improving basis. I want to be delivering and surprising them every 2 weeks. So, the whole point is you can't do that with an operator who needs it to work now. And also the way that AI has developed or other commercial software systems is that we've had clear demand signals from commercial sector. So we know what the challenge is and we've developed against it. Yeah, actually defense, notwithstanding what I've said about the commanders saying we need to adopt AI, those demand signals haven't been clear to the vast majority of the commercial sector. It's only guys like you and I who come from this world who understand how to translate that, who then sort of get behind this, which is why we've got such refined AI tools in every other sector, because the software industry has responded to that. Some of these tasks, which I call the sort of future unsolved challenges, are going to take a lot of time and thinking to actually develop systems that solve those challenges. So let's solve the things that we've already cracked. Let's get adoption.
Solve things we can get data access to as well. There's some of those future problems that data is just not stored in any fashion of usability, right? It's
And that's how we
segments
start building trust.
Yeah.
You know, so you can start seeing this working, and then you can start sort of then, you know, actually then sort of translating them into the things that are really, really tricky future, exquisitely defense needs.